that he was misunderstood in his day.
Very much so. Still misunderstood to this day.
And the Bible, I'm thinking, isn't an accurate translation of what he was trying to
Not
teach
always,
us and tell us.
No. Much of what, in that sense, that individual was teaching is very similar to what you are now understanding in what you call your metaphysical age. The idea is that simply people back then couldn't understand it. But to put it in a more fundamental sense, Yeshua, or as you say, Jesus, really did not intend in any way, shape, or form to create followers. Intended to create leaders, equals. Did not intend to create Christians per se, intended to let you all know you are Christ's. That's the greatest misunderstanding of the information. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. So much of what you're understanding today is the idea that that individual was teaching. Even down to the concept of how powerfully your beliefs create your reality, yes?
Yeah.
Because did not, in that sense, at least to some degree, the Bible quote him as saying, it is your belief, it is your faith that has made the difference? Yes? And did it not also say that when Yeshua even went back to his hometown, because people there only knew him as a carpenter and did not believe in the things that other people said he could do none of those things in his hometown. And the Bible says so very clearly. You understand?
Yes.
It's all about the idea of your belief system. It's all about the idea of what you know to be true. It's all about your actions, all about your alignment. This is all that individual was saying, and that's what he meant when he said, I am the way. He meant, be this way. I'm the example. I'm the way. Be like me.
The story of Adam, Eve, and Lilith.
Yes.
I was wondering if maybe you can shed some light on that. And did these people actually exist?
Well, in a manner of speaking, yes, although the story, you know, in a sense, has been rendered into something simplified as a tale, as a metaphor. The idea of, in the ancient language of the Anunnaki, that injected their genetics into Homo erectus to create Homo sapien, is that the male version of Homo sapien they created in their language is Adama. The female version is Eva, which you have transliterated into Adam and Eve over time. So the idea is that, of course, there was a first male and a first female, but the idea has been truncated, collapsed, condensed into the metaphorical story that you know in your Bible. Lilith represents again the idea of the continuation of the line of Homo sapien in the genetic alterations by the Anunnaki, and represents kind of the concept of independence, the ultimate independence of the human race, and the balance point that needed to be achieved when it was recognized that Homo sapien had been created, and offered the third alternative. As always, we talk about the idea that there is a trinity in existence, not just a duality. So the concept of Lilith and the feminine principle in balance, the masculine and feminine principle in balance in Lilith, creates the midpoint, the third reality, the balance point in the Trinity between the two dualities of male and female.
And why is it that Lilith, it seems to be that she was taken out of the modern version of what we learn?
Because as a patriarch, he grew and wanted to reinforce the idea of male dominance, the concept of the balance point of male and female in one body was anathema to them. And they sought to remove it so that they would retain control and empowerment over others and over the female side.
Okay, and that's interesting. And was this all done in a laboratory in Temple Mount, at Temple Mount?
There were many different labs around your planet, but the primary one was in the Middle East. The idea, again, is that, remember, this wasn't all done all at once. This took some time. So the idea of this story is quite condensed, and it condenses many, many decades, even hundreds of years of time in the creation of Homo sapien.
The Garden of Eden, can you shed some light on what that was and maybe where it was?
Well, again, in the Middle East, as given, between what you call the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in the Fertile Crescent being the primary contact point and laboratory and civilization that the Anunnaki established when they came to Earth and spread out from there.
Okay. And the serpent that came to Eve, who or what was this?
This is simply an indication of the awakening of the genetic markers that would allow the female to be closer to the concept of the original Anunnaki genetic structure. This is why you have the double intertwined serpents on your medical caduceus still today as an indication of the genetics laboratories and the genetics that were injected into Homo erectus to create Homo sapien, being that in the feminine side there was an alteration that allowed the feminine side to become a little bit more aware of the situation than the masculine side and a little bit closer in expression to the original Anunnaki genetic strain.
That's interesting.
It also represents, therefore, the idea of ancient knowledge, that in a sense, because of the genetic alterations in the feminine form, there was more capability of accessing the knowledge of the Anunnaki.
In the Bible, in the Hebrew Bible, the Anunnaki, is that translated into Elohim?
For the most part, yes. Although the Elohim can also be other beings that were encountered from time to time, but in general, it's a reference to the ancient Anus, yes.
The story of Exodus.
Yes, yes.
Did the Jews know that were they aware that it was aliens that were taking them out of Egypt? Or
not as such. They didn't really comprehend the concept of aliens in the same way that you do today. They understood that the beings were from a higher dimensional realm, but the idea to them at that time, in their understanding, is what they ultimately decided was beings from heaven, beings from above.
Why did they save the Jews from Egypt, but they didn't protect them or save them in World War II from the Holocaust?
It was important to allow certain genetics from the Anunnaki line to survive up to a certain point. But beyond that, once there was dominion of the humans of the earth to make their own decisions, their decisions could not be intervened or interfered with beyond a certain point.
The Star of David, where did that come about, and why is it the symbol of the Jews?
It is the symbol of the relationship between those beings and those people, and in general between the above and the below. It is the intersection of the higher dimensions with the lower physical reality. It is a flattened form of the Merkaba.
I would really like to know what the interaction was like between Moses and the ETs at the top of Mount Sinai.
Some of it was physiological, some of it was telepathic. He was invited into a craft. Many things he was made to forget, but some things he was allowed to remember, as according to what was necessary for the proper approach and interactions and relationship between those beings and the people at that time so that they could be guided.
You mentioned that the tablets with the Ten Commandments,
Yes.
they were of crystalline form.
Yes.
And
But they weren't commandments.
Can you expand more on some of those commandments or the
They have been
laws?
misinterpreted over time. For example, you say in your literature now that the first commandment is, I am the Lord your God, thou shalt not have false gods before me. The original text is, I am all that is, anything that you represent me by is also me, therefore there can be no false gods. See the difference?
Can you give us a few more? Please.
the idea again of keeping the Sabbath holy is the idea again of understanding the state of being, of grace, that you naturally give off when you are in your truth and in alignment. Yes? And it's not just for a single day necessarily, but it was at the time considered the idea of take some time in a cyclic way to always go back into that state and remember who you are and then proceed from there. So it just became a weekly thing over time.
And what was the light on Mount Sinai and the burning bush?
Some of the extraterrestrials that Moses interacted with were the idea of the Anunnaki attempting to correct what the original group of Anunnaki caused by the creation of Homo sapiens on your planet, and attempted to guide and preserve certain genetic lines that would allow for the eventual evolution of the Earth into the sixth hybrid race. Some were not Anunnaki. We have been asked this question before, and we are not allowed to discuss that race. The idea of the light is simply the light from a craft, the energy from a craft landing on the mountain that interacted with Moses. The idea of the burning bush, again, a holographic projection of energy that was interpreted as fire. Similar in many ways to what people on your planet have been experiencing today as orbs of energy, orbs of light. So interpreted in an old-fashioned way, because that was all that was understood. Energy at the time was not understood in the way you understand it now scientifically. Therefore, it was perceived as a fire, when all it was basically an orb of glowing energy to represent a communication modality, a probe that would allow for communication to occur between the extraterrestrials and the individual experiencing the idea of the burning of the orb.
The story of Noah's Ark.
In a sense, it did happen, but it's not limited to the one story that's in the Bible, and there are some things that are a little bit different than what was related. But it basically talks about the flood. It talks about the time when an asteroid struck the Atlantic Ocean, wiped out Atlantis, and caused massive change and tsunamis in different places in North, South, Central America, in Europe, in Africa, in the Mediterranean. Many different people traveled on different kinds of boats and vehicles to save themselves and perpetuate some of their culture. That is the story of Noah's Ark. But if you actually examine many different cultures around your world, you'll find they all have similar stories, except for the South Sea Islanders who live in the Pacific, who didn't experience that because the asteroid fell in the Atlantic. So there are different Noah's Ark stories by different names in various cultures in the North, Central, South Americas, in Europe, in Africa, the Mediterranean, and so on and so forth. They all represent a general reality, a general truth of a massive flood catastrophe from an asteroidal or cometary strike.
It's very interesting.
Yes, it is.
And these people that build the boats, who warned them? Who told them to build the boats?
Well, some of their own people may have, because again, remember that throughout your civilization, there have always been intuitives. There have always been mediums and channels and people who could converse with beings on other levels, and sometimes they might receive such information from extraterrestrial sources who might say, hey, there's a big rock on the way. You better get ready. So it can be many different sources for different cultures.
I'm left with a distinct impression that virtually all angels described as light beings that came from the sky and the stars in most religious doctrines are actually highly advanced aliens from other civilizations that have visited Earth. Is that correct?
Not all, but most. Extra-dimensionals, extraterrestrials, beings of higher frequency, but sometimes spirit beings as well that can manifest themselves to appear as if they are physical when they may not be. So it's a variety of things. Yes.
Which kind of negative belief systems are behind the emotions of suffering, longing, and feelings of loss involved with unrequited love? what can one do in order to transform so that there's only love left? And what if one is emotionally detached, but the other person is in love and is suffering because of it? What can you do in order to alleviate suffering?
First and foremost, in any form of relationship, make absolutely no assumption about what the relationship is about. You don't know what it's about. No matter how strong it feels, no matter how strong the attraction, that doesn't tell you what the relationship is in your life for, because it can still serve many different purposes, even if you are absolutely attracted, magnetically attracted to someone, doesn't mean that it is a particular kind of societal assumption of what that relationship should look like in terms of how it plays out physiologically. So the idea is to drop all your assumptions and let the relationship show you what it is. And the idea of pain and suffering in any love relationship, again, may have to do with beliefs in lack of worthiness, or simply definitions you have about what those connections mean that actually are not real in that sense, that are not relevant for what the relationship actually is. So we would simply always encourage you to really clarify what definitions you have about what you think any relationship is supposed to be, because they're all basically for the purpose of reflecting to you what you need to know to be more in love with yourself and all that is, which will then give you more reflections of connection to other people as well in a more positive sense. But all suffering and all pain is generally the result of the resistance to your true self, your natural self, and the imposition of belief systems and definitions that are out of alignment with who you truly are.
Okay. How can I remain as my true, unconditional, loving self when my egoic self pops up and is very convincing as real? When I'm in a flow state, I can't see how I could forget my ego, and yet it comes and goes just like everything else somehow.
What you're referring to is the negative ego. You will never lose the ego as long as you're physical, because the ego is the physical personality that allows you to have a physical experience. So it's not about losing the ego. It's about defining yourself as in alignment with it and letting it do its job, which is just to focus you on having an experience in physical reality terms. But the idea of making it in control, having it be a controlling factor, like you have to know what's going to happen, you have to know what kind of outcome is going to happen for you to feel like you're in control, and so on and so forth, is not the focus that it was designed to have. Its only focus as a typical natural ego structure, a physical personality structure, is to give you an experience of physical reality. So the idea is to go with your flow, knowing that the ego, being allowed to do the job it was designed to do, will simply give you the opportunity to experience what's happening, but the ego is not designed to know what's going to happen. That's the purview, shall we say, of the higher mind.
So interesting. I act on my passions every moment I can, but lately I've noticed that I have expectations. How can I help myself to not have expectations? And what negative beliefs would I be holding on to by having expectations?
Expectations may be too general of a term because you can always expect something is going to happen. There's always a consequence to an action or a choice. What we are refining that definition to be is not having insistences or assumptions, not just general expectations. The idea of insistence means, again, you do not trust the way your life unfolds and what it brings you as being the thing you actually need, and think from the negative ego that you know best what the outcome should actually look like, when in fact it may not need to look like that at all for you to be truly served. So it's about dropping the assumptions as to what's supposed to happen, insistences on what you think should happen, and simply expect that what needs to happen will happen, and then how you respond to it will be exactly the measure of how much you have let go of any insistence on the outcome.
So, how will I know if I'm actually following my excitement or I'm just avoiding fears?
Well, again, you have to be honest in your self-examination. If it comes right down to it, Pretty much everyone knows the difference between excitement and anxiety. You simply have to be honest about why you would be afraid of something, why you might be anxious about something, by letting yourself feel that feeling and not dismissing it, not disguising it, not dampening it. If you are anxious, let yourself feel it so that it's clear that you're coming from a fear-based belief, and then you have something to work with. So honesty and willingness to experience the emotions as they come up and own them, because if you don't own them, you can't change them. Acknowledge them for what they are clearly, without fear, and then you will be able to examine and discern the difference between true excitement and anxiety very easily. You just have to be honest within yourself about what it is you're experiencing and examine whether or not you are running from something or running to something.
Couldn't like your negative ego delude you into thinking that what is actually your passion is not, and make you think you're running from fear, based on whether you're more like a self-critical person that would lean towards finding fault with yourself, with the way that you're following your passion? You don't understand what I'm saying?
Yes, but again, the idea is that's relatively temporary if you are open and willing to have an honest discussion with yourself about what it is you're actually experiencing. Always take a moment to stop. You don't have to rush headlong forward in anything. You can take a moment and examine your choices to find out whether that choice is based on a positive or a negative belief. Take that time. That's what that time is for. You don't have to rush ahead. So you will have the discernment if you understand that you're always willing to be open and honest with yourself and take the time to examine why you are choosing what you're choosing. That's the key. Why am I choosing this?
How can I find out my belief system behind a situation? I understand honesty is very important, and I'm completely honest and willing to explore myself. But I always go into some loop when finding answers, and I don't know how to break the loop. How can I break that loop of trying to find out what is my hidden belief system?
Explore the loop itself. In other words, the loop itself is obviously a fear-based belief system perpetuating itself and preventing you from moving forward. Therefore, you must be getting something out of it. The belief system within you must, in a sense, be convincing you that you're getting something out of looping. So ask yourself, what am I afraid will happen if I stop looping? What am I getting out of looping? It's obviously a procrastination mechanism. So, again, it still takes honest self-examination, but the subject of the examination is the concept of the loop itself. It doesn't happen automatically. You have been convinced by some fear-based belief system that you should loop. It's not out of your control. It may feel like it, but it's not. It's a choice you're making to continue looping because you're afraid that if you stop looping, something worse will happen. So take that stance and explore what you believe might be worse if in fact you didn't loop at all.
Is that essentially the same thing as like ruminating, where something happens, a person gets upset, and they just keep replaying it over and over and over in their mind?
Yes. It's preventing them from moving forward because they have chosen to be in a loop of rumination. That should be your first clue that you're afraid that something worse will happen if you stopped doing that. It doesn't mean something will happen. It just means you're afraid that it will.
Okay. How do I know the difference between a limiting belief system that is using my emotions and thoughts versus my actual thoughts and emotions that come through my heart?
Again, we have answered this.
Okay.
You have simple, self-honest examination, and when you are willing to be open to that and truly clear and transparent within yourself, it's very easy to tell the difference between why you choose to do something and whether that is from fear and anxiety or from true excitement. Ask yourself, why am I choosing this? Why? How does this experience, even the negative one, serve me? Do I believe it safeguards me from something worse? You have to ask these questions of yourself and you have to answer them honestly.
So another question is, real anger is around 15 seconds, right? And then after that, it turns into judgment, basically.
Yes.
So how about other emotions like sorrow, sadness, shame, being hurt, and all that when you're continuing to experience that beyond, let's say, 15 seconds?
All the same. It's all the same mechanism. And perhaps the idea, again, is better expressed as alignment. So guilt, shame, these things, again, are simply emotional components that in the natural state are simply matters of recognizing the difference between true alignment and how far out of alignment you may be based on the choices you make. It only takes about 15 seconds to have that sensation course through you and recognize that what that is a measurement of the difference between alignment and misalignment. That's all that sensation is. You're out of alignment. Therefore, if it lingers beyond the 15-second mark, you have already added self-judgment to it, gone into beliefs of lack of self-worth, lack of capability, so on and so forth. All of those experiences are simply a rush of energy that gives you the difference between alignment and misalignment so that you can choose to realign yourself or you can choose to wallow in self-judgment.
So actually what you just pointed out is that there's almost like a process of going into a downward spiral. It's like each step, once you buy into a negative belief at one level, then it takes you down to yet another level.
Yes, it's like an elevator. You've pressed the down button instead of pressing the up button.
But in terms of something like grieving, that would be a little different in terms of not...
It's a little different, but not much. It's still utilizing a similar mechanism because, as I said, the only reason you really grieve is that you have a definition that you've lost something, that it's truly been separated from you, and that there's no connection remaining. If you change that definition, you would experience something quite different. So it may be slightly different as an expression, but it still utilizes the same mechanism. The definitions are creating a misalignment with what is true.
And so in the future, when we have stronger connection to those that have passed over, will we be able to just talk to them in our heads as if they're standing there, or will it be something where we do it through a device?
It can be any number of mechanisms. Ultimately, it can simply be you're talking to them because you can see and hear them, because you're matching a frequency that they exist on in their particular realm.
So then the only other barrier perhaps would be the idea that you cannot physically touch the person, or you don't...
Even that is not necessarily true. As we exist in our civilization, as what we are terming quasi-physical beings, means we have traits of both physical and non-physical reality. Spirits can touch us and we can touch them.
Wow.
It's a matter of realigning your frequency.
So you mean we could actually get to the point where, for example, the person who lost their daughter would actually be able to feel that they're in a one-on-one communication, talking, and being able to hug? Or
yes, if you look at your literature about the idea of what you call ghosts, you will find that there are many references to beings that seem so solid, people on your planet don't even know they're looking at a spirit. So it depends on the reasons for that, and we're not going to go into that at the moment. But clearly in your literature and in your accounting of such meetings, you do have a listing of experiences where people couldn't even tell that they were speaking to a ghost.
And that would just change our whole process. Once we get to that point, grieving will be unnecessary, I suppose.
Yes, but of course, it's really backwards. Once you change to that point, grieving will be unnecessary.
I see. According to our scientists, the Earth's core is iron nickel sphere. So does that mean that Earthlings have an iron heart? And in your opinion, what is the strangest material you've discovered at the core of a planet in our physical universe? And what did it mean for the life forms there?
The idea, of course, is that you do have iron in your blood and your blood passes through your heart. In that sense, you could say, yes, you have an iron heart, energetically speaking. The most interesting substance we have found at the core of a physical planet is neutronium. The idea of everything being packed so tightly that it becomes neutral without a positive or a negative charge. The life forms that are connected to that particular world are unlike anything that you might understand and exist on a level of quantum fluctuations.
Certainly is an interesting universe, isn't it?
Yes.
And you would know because you've seen a lot more of it than perhaps we have.
I've seen a little more than you have, but I have seen nothing but a fraction of what exists.
Wow. And is Earth just an amazingly unique planet in terms of all the animals and life that's here? I mean, how do you all view that?
Everything is unique.
Yes.
You are differently unique, yes, than any other world. There are worlds that are somewhat similar to yours. You are similar to them. But again, not identical. Unless you're looking at the idea of parallel realities in which another Earth may be so similar that you can't tell the difference. It might be only different literally by one subatomic particle. Still a different universe. So there can be those that look almost identical where you cannot tell the difference. And there are those that are so radically different you wouldn't even know that it's still considered to be Earth.
You've said on several occasions that everything is made out of love. If that's true, does that mean that even the greatest criminals and sadists are made out of love? And how can love produce such hatred, cruelty, and oppression? Please
Because
explain how it.
true love, is unconditional, remember? That is the essential vibration of existence. You simply translate that as unconditional love in your language. But the key word is unconditional. Therefore, it's simply a matter of everything being made out of that vibration, harmonizing with that vibration, but because you are experiencing yourself as an individuated consciousness in physical reality that can be built upon filters and belief systems, you don't necessarily experience it that way because you don't necessarily know how to align with it because you haven't been taught how to do so. So even the idea of someone you would consider to be a criminal may be acting, quote unquote, out of love in their true intention, but they may have no way of understanding how to actually express that in an aligned and harmonious way because they don't have the tools. They haven't been taught how to do that. So their actions, to the best of their ability, may be being done out of a distorted sense of love or self-love. But again, it's not necessarily a holistic expression, a unifying and harmonizing expression of the idea of the basic, fundamental, unconditional vibration of existence itself. Because you have the freedom to choose, because things are unconditional, how to express the idea of the love of which you're made, of the vibrational existence of which you are made.
And the idea of bringing heaven to earth. Can you share some more with us about how that relates to the heart and
Well, again,
the experience we're having here?
yes, when you clear out the negative vibrations, the definitions in your belief systems that are not relevant for you as a being in your true sense, then the vibration, message, communication from the higher mind will go to the heart as it does and be reflected to a physical mind that is now clear and transparent and free of any distortions in its belief system. And by doing that, you radiate then to all parts of your body and outward through your electromagnetic aura that vibration of purity and alignment and clarity that comes more directly from the higher mind to the heart to now a physical mind that is a transmitter in a pure sense. Thus then that can, by example, allow others to sense that vibration and if they so choose, start to match that vibration because now they're being given an opportunity to do so. And that can help alleviate the idea of any distortions by at least providing the option of a clear vibration to others in much the same way that the unconditional love of our civilization is offered to you, but you still have to be the ones to agree to harmonize and match that frequency. Thus, our vibration and our sharing is unconditional. It's up to you to match it. And we would not necessarily have been giving information to you for the last 38 of your years had not some of you at least decided to match it and be living examples of that frequency. That doesn't mean that you have to exactly be like us or do exactly as we do. It simply means that you were willing to let go of all those things that aren't truly you, that are your challenges, your themes of exploration in this particular life, to get to know yourself from a new point of view, and have let go of the need now to do that because you are now more willing to be your true self just on its own merit. And thus then you have elevated the frequency of your entire world and given many people more of an opportunity, as you align with any source of unconditional love, to allow themselves to align with those sources as well, whatever they may be, whatever works for them, and increase the likelihood and the probability of more people choosing to navigate themselves through different parallel versions of Earth over and over to ones that are more and more reflective, like a mirror, of the vibrational choices you have made to be in harmony and in alignment with the unconditional love of all that is.
What you call skepticism. Many individuals in your society think, all right, I'm going to be very scientific, I will be skeptical. Skepticism is not a scientific attitude. Objectivity is. Skepticism is a pre-built bias. Objectivity is balanced. Objectivity says, all right, here's a concept. How does this apply? How can this be applied? What can I learn of it? One way or another. What in this concept will work or won't work for me? Skepticism says, this is hogwash. I will, therefore, go in exploring this with resistance already, rather than an open, balanced, objective point of view. Nothing is truly ever truly objective. Everything is always subjective. But you can create, subjectively, an objective attitude. But skepticism is not scientific. And any true, quote-unquote, scientist will be the first to understand that. Because if skepticism were a scientific tool, there would be very few things you would ever discover. So when, many times, individuals in your society say that they are skeptical, many times it is simply a misinterpretation. Many times they are being truly objective. But many times when individuals think they are being objective, they are actually being skeptical, which means they already have a built-in belief about what it is they are approaching. You follow me?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. And also allow us to remind you that because skepticism is a built-in belief, then quite often skepticism will only be able to manifest in life the result of that belief. In other words, I told you so. And when you get the manifestation that lets the individual say, see, I told you so, that's an indication that the only reason they got that manifestation is because they, to begin with, believed that they were going to be able to say, I told you so. So it is a self-perpetuating prophecy. Thank you for your sharing. You are the path you need to be. Do not forget, a path is not what you are on. A path is what you are. You cannot be off of yourself. Enjoy the path you have created yourself to be. We thank you for sharing that idea with us at this timing. We will suggest that you all enjoy a short break. How's everything going? Sharing.
Different things happened in my life that made me arrive here 7 months ago.
I
feel like I have something to learn in LA. I tried with macrobiotics and different things, but I still feel that I'm not going to make it. Can you help me?
make it in what?
I don't know. The purpose for me is learning something here, and
You are learning by anything that you do. Everything is a valid tool. Everything. If you are going through life perhaps simply looking for a few specific things, you may overlook the fact that everything that happens in your life is there for a reason. Everything. Even though you may have created specific manifestations that you desire to unveil in this particular life, the living of this life in the fullest way you possibly can is the actual fundamental purpose of this life. Because whether or not you have ever lived before, whether or not you will ever live again, you are a reincarnational being, but you will only be this you once. So, in that sense, you do only have one life to live as this you. Therefore, living this life to the fullest is the purpose of this life. Within that life, there may be many things you truly desire to do. Therefore, many individuals, when they go through life looking for a specific thing that would seem like the purpose of their lives, create difficulty in finding that thing because they don't recognize it's up to them to decide what that thing is. Anything that excites you the most is the purpose that you will decide to do. And you will be therefore fulfilling the purpose of your life, because you will be living it, as you say, to the hilt. So, what excites you the most? What do you want to do? Anything that you have experienced will simply add to your ability and knowledge to let you do the things that excite you the most. So whether you are exploring, as you have said, macrobiotics or yoga or I Ching or astrology or science or religion or economics or politics or any of these ideas, they are all tools. They are all different ways to learn more and more about yourself. The fundamental reason being to do what you wish to do. Learn about yourself in all these different ways so you can do the thing that excites you the most in the best way that you can. So you must make the conscious decision as to what the quote-unquote fulfillment and purpose in your life will be. You follow me?
Yeah.
What excites you?
Sailing.
And?
Sailing.
And?
Sailing.
And sailing, all right. Then, why not sail?
I'm just taking a break.
Do understand that you can be of service to other individuals even while you are enjoying sailing. You could be teaching them how to sail. You could be sailing them places they wish to go. You can be of service to many individuals by doing what it is that excites you the most and making a living at it. Just because something in life excites you beyond anything else doesn't mean it's not a valid way to make a living. So follow what excites you the most. When you know you are fulfilling the person that you are within integrity and are willing to be of service to those that may require your service, then you will be able to fulfill in service to other individuals, and in turn, the individuals that need your service will only need the service that will allow you to be who it is you are. And you will not be expected to be anything else. So do what excites you the most, and at any given moment, act upon whatever opportunity comes to your life that represents what excites you the most that you are capable of acting upon. That's it. That's all you need to do. And you will be supported in complete and total abundance. You follow me?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sail away. Sharing.
Good evening, Bashar.
Good evening.
This is my first time to hear channeling such as this. This is my first time here.
Welcome.
Thank you. It is a great pleasure and very exciting to hear the simple questions turned into very deep and philosophical and wondrous answers. I have an extremely simple question. I would like to contact an ancestor of mine, a great-great-great-grandfather. Is such a thing possible?
Such a thing is possible. However, first of all, recognize that many individuals that in your terms have physically died some time ago may already be reincarnated and physically alive again. Also, many times, even if they are still non-physical, there will be many things that they will be learning in their own realms, and in a sense, they are not focused in the same way that they used to be towards the physical realm. So contact between you may not necessarily be as blatant as you may think it has to be, or as blatant as you think it should be. However, no matter what state any particular portion of an individual is experiencing at this time, one portion is always contactable. For every single individual, whether you can understand this technically or not, is existent within every other single individual. So that portion that represents that ancestor to you exists within you. And it is quite possible to have dialogues with it. And it will be just as real as talking to the original idea. Because everything is simultaneous. You see, when you think, well, I have to talk to this person, and to do so, I must reach back into the deep, dark recesses of time, break through these barriers, stretch myself across the fabric of these gulfs and chasms in order to reach them, then you are not understanding that linear time is your illusion, and that all lives exist now, but are simply in different orientations, so that one life may not be aware of another life. One moment. What is the time frame of that individual?
The time frame of what is, he was born in 1763. May I tell you slight about him?
Not yet.
All right. He lived until 1840.
What is your present age?
61.
Are you discovering something now within your life that has to do with either trade or what you would colloquially call magic?
I have been reading books that would be based on psychic phenomena lately. Trade, magic, I'm not sure.
All right. What is the idea of psychic phenomena to you? What does it mean to be psychic?
There are things that are known that I don't consciously know. When someone can express or accomplish something in a realm that I don't consciously understand, I consider that a psychic phenomenon.
Now you have described an effect,
Yes.
But what is it? What is it to function psychically?
I don't know.
All right. What is the feeling? All right. Functioning psychically is simply empathy, identification with another individual. It is, in fact, a type of being in love. Now, when you are in love in that way and identifying fully with another individual, you adopt a similar pattern of vibratory frequency. That similar pattern of vibratory frequency allows you to interpret the energy of the universe in the same or a similar way that they interpret it. So you create in your mind similar thought patterns. It is not that you're actually reading their minds. You are, in a sense, mimicking their minds to know what they think. That is how psychicness functions. When you create a link with any other individual, no matter when they physically live, then you are identifying not just with them, but as them. And conversely, many times, individuals that you find yourself drawn to will many times be an indication of an extension of the same energy. You are already identifying as that individual. Now, to some degree, not absolutely 100% a literal continuation on every level, but on many levels, we are perceiving that your energy is a continuation of the energy you have described. In other words, you are the reincarnation. You follow me?
I believe I heard you.
Will that suffice for now?
Yes, thank you.
Therefore, if you wish to have a conversation with that individual, talk to yourself. Talk to that aspect of your mind that represents that vibratory identity, and you will be in communion, if you will, with that identity.
Thank you.
Shouting! Bashar! Yes!
On the last day of 1986, I was in a metaphysical bookstore and I saw a man that I seemed to recognize very strongly. And he had the same feeling about me.
Yes.
And so
Many times this is an indication of past life connections.
I figured that was something to do with that. Now, last weekend I was due to meet this person at a local convention, but it turned out that the person who was going to... Certainly. Okay. The person who was going to give me a ride to this convention, her car, I guess conveniently, broke down.
All right.
And so we didn't get to meet. And I went to see a movie instead. The movie I saw was called Vagabond. It was about a French girl hitchhiking around France. And in a sense, it was a movie about someone searching for total freedom, but in a sense, creating out of it total loneliness.
Yes.
Now, the movie really struck a chord within me because I'm about to make a journey soon myself. And I've experienced similar things when I've traveled before.
Then it has strengthened you by giving you an opportunity to recognize that now that you have seen how one individual may have translated the idea of being alone into a negative aspect, you now know that you do not have to prefer that and you can gain empowerment from the idea of your aloneness.
Definitely. This is what I was feeling as I left the movie house. On the way home, I created an interesting symbol that I feel was an instant demonstration of this.
Do share.
I was walking down the street and a car pulled over and a man wound his window down about an inch and he said, "I'd like to ask you a hypothetical question." So I wondered, what's happening here? What am I doing? And so I said, "Would you wind your window down a little bit more so I can hear you?" And he wound it down a little bit more, not very much. And he then said, "I would like you to get in the car and drive around the corner," and he pointed to around the corner where it was dark, "and assist me in mentally torturing myself and giving me ideas of how to physically torture myself."
All right.
Something on that level, basically.
Nice.
And I got kind of, my first impression was, well, this is interesting, and do I want to pursue this or not? And I chose not to pursue it. However, as I was walking away, I realized that if I had made the choice to
Yes.
go there, or even invite, I had the feeling that maybe I could have invited him to my house and talked to this being and shared some of the ideas that I have about, or that I have experienced to do with struggle and pain.
All right.
And how I'm changing my own ideas.
All
about
right.
that. In thinking about this, it's reflected to me, and this is my version, I'd like you to share whatever you feel
All right.
about it.
You were speaking to a fragment of yourself,
Yes.
but continue.
I felt that I was seeing myself before,
Yes.
so to speak.
Yes.
And
a
the
past
window,
self. Yes.
The window was, in my opinion, was representative of the old aspect of myself only wanted to open the window a little bit.
Very
but I wanted the
good.
window all the way down.
Very good.
And so that I could reflect to the old portion of myself and unify the old portion with the new portion.
Your trust in vulnerability as strength, not as weakness.
That's what I was thinking. Thank you.
We thank you for such a loving conversation with yourself and the opportunity for the future self you have now become to send information to the past self you were to allow them to harmonize with you. We thank you for your creation of simultaneous synchronicity in your life, rather than placing yourself along a linear track. Thank you. There are more convolutions and pliable manifestations of time that many of you may encounter from this point forward, where you can meet yourself coming and going in all the reflective ways that you need to be the fullest possible manifestation of the being you now know yourself to be in this present reality.
The whole formula is act on your highest passion every moment that you can to the best of your ability, taking it as far as you can possibly take it until you can take it no further, with absolutely, here it comes, zero expectation for what the outcome should be. Why? Why the zero expectation? I'll tell you. Thank you. You have basically, being a physical being, split yourself into two main components, a physical mind and a higher mind that is non-physical. You need to work together. The physical mind and the higher mind must form a partnership, must form a relationship that works in tandem in order to actually function as a whole person in your reality. But when you allow the physical mind to think that it has to do this, and it has to make this happen, and it must know how something is going to happen, and you get it to focus on all these details, you are giving it more than it was designed to do. You wear it out, you tire it out, and you wonder why you get so many headaches at the end of the day, and you wonder why you're tired all the time. The idea is to understand that the physical mind is simply not designed to know how something is going to happen. It just isn't. The physical mind is only designed to know and to experience what is happening in the present. The higher mind knows how something is going to happen. When you allow the higher mind thus then to know that and to work with you, the higher mind will know how to bring the manifestation to the physical mind for the physical mind to experience. So here is how the idea, for example, of visualization actually works. The physical mind is capable of conjuring a visualization of your ideal preferred reality. And when you see that visualization in your mind's eye, you get very excited about that manifestation, about experiencing that reality. And the excitement is good, is exactly what you need. But the purpose of that visualization is to generate that feeling, that state of being of passion, of excitement. The purpose of the visualization is not necessarily to come into manifestation as your physical mind has envisioned it. Because your physical mind, what it may think is the most ultimate representation of that reality, what it may think is the absolute top,
What it may think is the absolute ceiling, to the higher mind is just the floor, just the beginning of what could manifest. And if you simply stay in the state that the visualization generates within you and then let go of the actual imagery and hand that energy over to your higher mind will actually then bring you the manifestation that is actually representative of that passion state, even though it may look nothing like you imagined. It might, but it might not. So the idea is to use the energy state to work with the higher mind and allow the higher mind to bring you what it knows you really need that is truly representative of that energy state, so that you can be open and willing to accept that no matter what manifests, it is all part and parcel, all a representation of your joy, and never will be defined or labeled as an interruption in it, or an obstacle in it, or a stopping of that joy. Because your physical reality, as we said, is only a mirror. And whatever you define it to be, whatever you believe is most true, is what you get. So it's very important to pay attention to those beliefs and those definitions, for it is those and only those that create your physical reality experience. Because nothing in physical reality has built-in meaning. Nothing has automatic meaning. Everything is fundamentally without built-in meaning. The greatest gift, and I know this sounds strange in your language, the greatest gift creation has given to all of you is that life is fundamentally meaningless. That means it has no built-in meaning. What that also means is you were designed to give it the meaning you prefer to give it, and the meaning you give it will utterly determine how you experience it, no matter how the situation looks. Because every situation is neutral and can serve double duty and can allow you to experience a positive or a negative effect in your life. It isn't how the situation looks that makes the difference. It's how you respond to the situation that makes the difference in terms of the effect that you experience. So let go of the idea that the outer world needs to change in order for you to know that you have changed. Just make the change within yourself, know that you have changed, behave as if you have changed, and then you will prove to creation that you have changed, because you will be responding differently to the outer reflection, even if the outer reflection stays the same. That's how it works. Does that make sense to you all? Yes.